The world was holding its breath, yet after an eagerly watched summit in Alaska, U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin walked away without resolving the war in Ukraine. Is diplomatic progress slipping through our fingers, or is this the dawn of a new approach to peace? Let's break down the reactions from global leaders, and here's where the debate gets heated. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy wasted no time addressing the lack of agreement. On X, he expressed Ukraine's support for President Trump's bold proposal, a three-way summit involving Ukraine, the USA, and Russia. Zelensky insisted that crucial decisions must be confronted directly by leaders, emphasizing that this trilateral setup is ideal for open dialogue. He announced plans to meet with President Trump in Washington soon, stressing how every detail of ending the violence and conflict will be on the table. Zelensky also underscored the necessity of European involvement, highlighting that robust, reliable security guarantees must come from both America and Europe. In his view, American readiness to participate in Ukraine's security framework is a hopeful sign. Meanwhile, European leaders issued a joint statement making one thing crystal clear. Ukraine deserves absolute, unbreakable security guarantees to safeguard its sovereignty. They applauded President Trump's declaration that the United States stands ready to provide these assurances. Europe's so-called coalition of the willing signaled it would take an active role, warning that Ukraine should face no limitations in defending itself or collaborating with other nations, even as they asserted that Russia must not be allowed to hinder Ukraine's pursuit of deeper integration with the EU or NATO. Notably, the statement emphasized that Ukraine, not outside actors, must decide the fate of its own territory. It also reinforced that forcibly redrawing borders is unacceptable, a dig at Russia's territorial ambitions. The Europeans pledged to do more, vowing additional sanctions against Russia and broader economic measures to squeeze its war efforts. Their final word? Ukraine's allies will stand firm for as long as it takes to achieve a just and lasting peace. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, in perhaps the strongest praise yet, called President Trump's pursuit of peace a breakthrough, claiming his diplomatic push has brought the world closer to ending what he described as Russia's illegal aggression. Starmer emphasized the importance of robust security guarantees from the U.S. and Europe, arguing that only such commitments could deter Putin from further hostility. He promised, however, that Britain would not relent in pressuring Russia through rigorous sanctions. Reaffirming the UK's enduring support for Ukraine, French President Emmanuel Macron, also on X, took a more cautious approach. He urged leaders to scrutinize the lessons of the past 3 decades, pointing out Russia's habit of reneging on its commitments, a warning that many may see as a subtle jab at over-optimism. Macron promised to work with both Trump and Zelensky, prioritizing unity and responsibility, but repeated France's steadfast dedication to backing Ukraine. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called the summit a ray of hope for peace discussions. Affirming Italy's alignment with Western allies, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz kept his message short. Ukraine can rely on Germany's unwavering solidarity. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen signaled the EU's close cooperation with the US and Kyiv, declaring strong protection for Ukrainian and European security interests the highest priority. And this is the part most people miss. EU Chief Diplomat Kaja Kallas emphasized America's unique ability to push Russia toward genuine negotiations while warning that Europe's resolve must not slacken. She revealed plans for a 19th set of sanctions, underlining that pressure on Russia will intensify. India, often neutral in such conflicts, applauded the summit itself. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaswal viewed dialogue as the only way forward, echoing global calls for a swift end to hostilities in Ukraine. Norwegian Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide, speaking to reporters, insisted on ramping up pressure on Moscow. He warned against Russia's attempts to fracture European and American unity, urging allies to carefully heed Ukraine's needs. Yet views weren't unanimous. Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala bluntly stated that while the U.S. and allies seek peace, Putin remains fixated on territorial expansion and the resurrection of Soviet influence. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban offered a strikingly different take. He saw the summit as the end of a long spell of hostilities between the two largest nuclear powers, claiming the world is now safer, a point likely to spark heated debate. Poland was characteristically resolute, with Prime Minister Donald Tusk warning that European security hinges on total Western unity, especially as Russia, in his words, only respects strength. Tusk called this a critical moment for Ukraine, Poland, and the continent at large, and asserted that Putin's cunning approach demands nothing less than steadfast solidarity. Tusk's foreign policy advisor, Marcin Prydach, considered the mere existence of talks significant, but didn't shy away from controversy. He argued that peace can only come through either Russia's defeat or successful negotiations. The latter, he noted, are now in motion and should continue. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico welcomed the diplomatic process as crucial, but questioned whether Europe would genuinely support it or cling to what he called a failed strategy of weakening Russia by pouring vast resources, financial, political, and military, into Ukraine. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson addressed national anxieties head-on, warning that a bad peace dictated by Moscow would threaten wider European stability. He made clear that Sweden would maintain strong engagement with Ukraine, the U.S., and European partners to ensure ongoing pressures against Russia and meaningful long-term security guarantees. Romania's Foreign Minister, Toiu Oana, saw transatlantic unity as the blueprint for restoring peace and building prosperity in the Black Sea region. She praised the EU's proactive role, but argued for stronger channels of negotiation and dialogue, particularly on the Eastern Front. And here's the real sticking point. Should the West continue to increase pressure and sanctions, or pivot more aggressively toward diplomacy, even if it means negotiating on terms some might find unacceptable? Are robust security guarantees enough to dissuade Russia? Or is unity actually being tested behind the scenes? So what do you think? Is this summit a genuine opportunity for peace? Or just more diplomatic theater? Do you agree with Western leaders' uncompromising stance? Or does someone like Orban have a point about the value of re-engagement? Can Ukraine truly trust promises of security, given Europe's past? Chime in below. Is the world actually closer to peace, or simply circling the same set of unresolved tensions?